Hey, it's Ben from Hubcap Hobbies. I wanted to share with you my latest RC find. This is the Delta Eagle RC car. This particular example is just a roller without a motor, or electronics for that matter. But it's a really interesting look back at some of the early RC cars that came out in the 70s and into the early to mid 1980s. To summarize a really brief history on radio control cars and how they started, they really evolved out of other hobbies like slot cars and tether cars, which are probably more important to the start of RC cars than slot cars are. Uh, if you're unfamiliar with tether cars, go look them up. They're pretty interesting pieces of engineering. Basically, they have a model airplane engine shoved into a model car. The cars are tethered to a pole in the center of a circular track. The cars then fly around the track and compete against the clock for the best time. Some of the cars are even capable of achieving speeds over 200 miles an hour. And that's what really evolved eventually into radio control car racing. Obviously, with the tether cars, you didn't have the ability to steer them or anything like that. But the gas-powered engines that they had are very similar to the ones that you'd see in a radio control car. In fact, some places still do the tether cars. It's obscure, but there's still enthusiasts out there that enjoy tether car racing. Anyways, back to the Eagle. This car was available as a kit. I don't know if Delta actually made any ready-to-run versions of any of their cars, but it was a kit. There were some optional parts that you could get for it. I know there was at least a couple different motors that you could choose from. Then there's just some other miscellaneous things. Like you could get a spoiler to go on the back, stuff like that. But this really was intended for racing. In fact, Delta actually entered and raced this model in several major RC competitions. I have the little booklet that came with the car, and looking through it, it's got a little section on every competition the car had been in. It had the highest finish by a suspension car in the 1982 Roar Winter Nationals, an incredible fourth overall in the grueling 1982 running of the 24-hour Miami endurance race. It was considered the ultimate test of the suspension car, meant to continue the Delta tradition of designing excellent quality and ruggedness. And it was a top qualifier in the second place finish in the 1982 EFRA Series Spanish Grand Prix, attended by every major European driver and car manufacturer. In addition to the Eagle, I also picked up a Delta Super J. It's pretty similar to the Eagle, but one major difference is the number of metal components. Like this fuel tank, for example, it's completely made out of metal, and it's a fairly heavy car, and I'm sure that affected its performance. But then again, this car managed to win a world championship back in 1981. Indianapolis, Indiana, July 1981. 8-scale racing history is made this month when Art Carbonell outdrove some 130 of the world's fastest drivers to win the World 1/8 scale fuel powered championship using a stock Delta J car and a Pico engine with accessories. Art proved his talent and equipment through a week-long series of qualifications and eliminations, leading to double eliminations that left only 10 finalists from all the original entries from around the globe. Art led the 200-lap final for all but the first lap or two, and in fact pulled out an early 2-lap lead over his nearest challenger. Delta's Bill and Ken Campbell joined Art in stating that the experience of winning the World Championship was the highest achievement in 14 years of racing 1/8 scale.